You're listening to Ideal Practice episode number 110. And today, guys, we're going to be talking about several of my favorite tools for keeping your business humming along nicely. We're going to be talking about productivity, guys, and you're going to love this. Those of you who have a one wing like me and are a little obsessive about these kind of things. And I actually hope this is going to make your life easier. So there's that. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Wendy Pitts-Reeves, and with over 2 decades of experience in the private practice world, I've built my 6-figure business while learning a lot of lessons the hard way. This is the first podcast that shows you how to apply the principles of energy, alignment, and strategy to build a practice that is profit-centered, but people-forward. This is the Ideal Practice Podcast. Hey guys, and welcome back. This is Wendy Pitts-Reeves, your host. I'm so happy to be hanging out with you here on another episode of the Ideal Practice Podcast. Happy summer. We are in the middle of all of it, are we not? And I hope things are going well for you. This is kind of a special week at my house. This is what we call birthday week because we have one birthday at the beginning of the week and one birthday at the end of the week. And as this goes live, I'm about to be celebrating one of those days. So I want to just start off before I even do anything. I want to shout out to one of the most over-the-top, amazing, beautiful human beings I have ever had the pleasure of knowing. She who is having a super-de-duper special birthday today, my lovely wife, Anne. Happy birthday, sweet thing. Date night tonight, I hope. All things going well. And then tomorrow, we're going camping. Yeah, that's what we do during birthday week. And I can't wait to take a few days off the grid in the woods in a beautiful place. So anyway, that's what we got going on around here. I hope good things are going on around there where you are as well. We are, have you thought about this? We are at the end of Q2, everybody. Here at the end of June, this is the end of the second quarter of the year. We are halfway through this year. Yeah, how about that? So you could do a number of things at this point, actually. You could be looking at doing a mid-year review and using some of the very same processes I've taught you around the beginning of the year to go back and look at the last 6 months. Take stock. Where are you at this point in the game compared to what your intentions were for the year? Have you accomplished some of it, all of it, none of it? Do some of the goals that you had planned at the beginning of the year, do some of those goals still fit? Do some of them maybe not fit anymore? If your life is anything like mine, there have been all kinds of curveballs, and I have done some of what I had intentions for, and I have not done some others. That's okay. This is life. But this is a good time to stop and take stock. At the very minimum, I want you to think about what your focus will be for the next 90 days. For Q3, where are you going to go? What are you going to focus on? What do you want to accomplish in July, August, and September? For most of us, that's about how long we can keep our focus anyway. Anything beyond that, we tend to lose sight of. So what do you want to do? Now, for a lot of you, I already know that the fall, well, this is just like for all of us, right? For the fall, we often are really, really busy, right? Kids go back to school. There are lots of fall activities. The shoulder season, spring and fall, is when there are lots of conferences, lots of continuing ed and professional opportunities to get out there and do a little networking. It is often when many of us are doing a launch of some kind. So there's plenty coming down the pike for you, right? What could you do in the next 90 days that's going to help you with that, help you prepare for that? Well, I'm going to tell you one thing I might want to suggest to you. How about giving your systems an update? What if you took this next 90 days as kind of a house cleaning period of time when you do some serious cleanup, refreshing, redecorating, if you might say, of your business as a whole or your business infrastructure? I personally think it's a good idea to do that every so often. And having the right tools in place knowing how to use them, being really clear about what you need and what you don't need. Some of those are good ways, or having those in place are good ways to bring more ease, clarity, simplicity, flow into your life and into your business. So that's what I want to talk about today. That's where I'm going to go today. So I have to tell you, I have the cutest little toolkit, guys. Now, for you fellas, don't be laughing at me about this, okay? But I actually have a canvas tote bag that I carry in the trunk of my car that has all the little places in it for all the main tools you tend to need, like a hammer, a couple of different kinds of screwdrivers, a handy pair of pliers, all the stuff that are just good to have around because you just never know when you're going to need those kinds of things. So I do keep that actually in the trunk of my car. Only my little toolkit is really pretty because it's a nice kind of neutral gray with lavender trim. Who knew that a tool bag could be pretty? Yeah, just a hint of femininity. No, it's not pink. Can't go that far. But of course, a cool bag means absolutely nothing if you don't have the right tools inside it, which is also why I tend to carry it. So I make sure I have all that stuff in one place, right? Well, the same thing applies to your business. It applies just as much there as it does to your home. So I thought I would share with you some of my favorite tools that I use to run my business. Now, these have changed over time. I've written about this on the blog back in the day. I've talked about this in other episodes here and there. It is an ongoing process because I often am evaluating, does this still work? Is there something better out there? Am I using this the best way I could be using it? Has this outlived its usefulness based on where I am at this point in my life? So that said, these are the tools I'm using now. Some of these I've had for years, really a long time. Some of them are brand new to me, all right? But I love them and I use every one of these. So this is going to help you because here's the thing. I know a lot of you are really creative, intuitive people who tend to feel your way through what you do. On Myers-Briggs, I bet a lot of you are on the introverted end of things. I bet a lot of you are feeling types, right? Which means that anything that smacks of structure or discipline may or may not be something that you are drawn to. But when you are the CEO of your own show, when you are running your own practice, whether it's a solo or a group or anything in between, there's a real chance that as your practice takes off, you get so busy that you're just kind of getting through the day. And I know I have a lot of colleagues that I think barely take time to eat lunch, right? So doing things like returning calls, scheduling appointments, writing up your notes, trying to find resources for your clients, and then trying to figure out where you wrote all that stuff down and just remember it where it is, and then find it when you need it. We're constantly working on that kind of thing, right? Well, if your practice is hopping, it's easy for important things to fall through the cracks. It's easy to waste your time and energy doing repetitive things over and over and over again when there's probably a way that you can systematize that and make it simpler. There are probably things that you are writing from scratch that you could be writing from a template. There's just lots of ways, y'all, to clear out mental space, clear out energy of things that are taking up space in your head that don't necessarily need to. And having the right tools in place is going to help you with that. Remember what I said a few weeks ago here on the podcast when I said that wherever there is stress, there is a lack of habits, systems, or boundaries. Remember that? Well, let's get your systems in better place so that you can chase things less and spend more time and more of your precious energy on the things that matter most to you. And trying to remember where you wrote down the notes from that phone call is not one of those. All right. Now, as I get into this, I want to remind you that one of the things that I have available for you is a real quick and easy self-assessment tool. It's called the IP360 Scorecard. It's a real quick overview of your practice as a whole. It takes about maybe 10 minutes to do, maybe 12, not long. And there will be almost always sort of an obvious one or two places in your practice that could use some help. Go get that. You can get it totally for free. Download it, fill it out, see what you think. And if you've done it before, but it's been a while, you might find it useful to do it again, because sometimes you can compare where you are now to where you were, say, 6 months ago. And that can also help. Like, I've made progress there, but you know what? My pricing still needs a little work. Or, based on today's topic, my process, my systems could use a little work. Anyway, check that out. You can get that over at wendypittsreeves.com/360. The numbers 360. I think you will love that. All right, let's talk about tools. Well, as I was thinking about this, most of what I'm going to talk to you about today are digital tools. I want to talk to you about those that are client-facing, tools that I use that are all about customer service, that are actually interacting with my clients and customers. I want to talk about the behind-the-scenes digital tools that I use to keep things organized and to keep things going. And then, just because I know we are all different kinds of folks, I'm also going to share a couple of analog tools that I use that are not digital, because that also serves a function. All right. So when it comes to client-facing tools, the first thing I want to talk about is payment. So y'all know I am a huge fan of making payment as seamless, frictionless, easy for my clients as possible. You want this to be something that your people can do without even hardly thinking about it. So anything you can do to get it in place where they either pay at the time that they schedule, or they pay the day they come, and all they have to do is click a button, or better yet, it's automated in some way, that's ideal. The tool I use to collect payments for most of the things I do is Square. Now, I do also use Stripe for some things on my coaching side, mostly because it is the payment option that interacts with one of my other tools better. I'll get to that later. But for 90% of what I do, I just use Square. I used to use PayPal back when I ran Secret Adventures. That was my main tool. But I have landed on Square because I can do invoicing. I can get reports. It's very easy for my clients to use. If I need to prompt them, I can send them an invoice. But I can also set it up where they come and see me. They go into an email, they click on a button, and they make their payment. I also can make it where they can pay back when they set it up. But so Square is my go-to. It's reliable. The fees are in line with most other payment options that are out there. I feel safe when I use it. I've never had any problems with it at all. I've never found a single mistake on any client account since I've been using Square. So that is how I collect payment. I do have clients who will pay with a check, believe it or not, every now and then. Not a lot, but I do have a few. And heck, if somebody wants to pay me cash, that's fine too. But Square is by and large the main way I do it. And I can do it on my phone. I can do it through a website. I can do it through an email. Depending upon the situation, I use it in all of those ways. So Square is my main tool for payment. Then I not only want to make it easy for people to pay me, I want to make it easy for them to schedule with me, to see me, to come and work with me, right? Now, I have talked about this in the past. This was a big hurdle I had to get over way back in the day. Like many of you, I want to feel like I have total control over my schedule, and that means a lot of things. Back when I was doing this with pen and paper, it meant I wanted to make sure that I saw my hardest cases, those who are most challenging, those who really kept me on my toes. I would like to see them early in the week so that I could kind of get that behind me for the week, right? Or maybe I had like 2 days of back-to-back clients, and then I had a couple of days that people were kind of spread out. I might not offer certain sessions because I would rather group people in a certain way. So when it came to doing any kind of online scheduling, I was worried about giving up that control. Well, I had no reason to worry, because the truth is, once I got the parameters set up the way I wanted them, there are no words to describe what a difference it made to have online scheduling available to my clients. There was a bit of a learning curve in the beginning when I first implemented it, because I had to teach them how to use it. Nobody was used to it. But now everybody's used to it, and it is the only way we do things. So I have a schedule. I use Acuity scheduling. I looked at lots of them to tell you all a little bit about kind of how I do this kind of thing or how I approach a decision like this. This one in particular was a big deal. And because I had already been working with various coaches for a few years, I'd already found what it was like to be on the receiving end of this when I was the one who had to go in and use somebody else's calendar tool. And from that, I learned some of the things that I liked or didn't like about those various tools. So when I decided that, all right, it was time for me to bring this into my work, I spent one long weekend, like a 3-day weekend, 4-day weekend, and I went in and signed up for a trial with something like 12 or 14 different scheduling tools. Like I really went all in. I'm like, if I'm going to do this, I want it to be something that's going to be easy for me to manage and that will not be irritating to my clients. And after trying a whole bunch of them, Acuity was the one I landed on because it had lots of bells and whistles. It had lots of flexibility. I could do almost anything I wanted to do with it or nothing. I could make it as simple or as complex as I needed it to. And at that point, they had a really good free option. Now, I'm way past that. I'm a couple of notches up from that nowadays, so I don't even know what they have, but I'm sure they still have this. Since I started using Acuity, the company has been sold. It was what my fantasy is, that was a group of young people in somebody's basement in California running it. I don't actually know, but it was a startup company that I know was started by the son of a massage therapist who was trying to help his mom out with scheduling. I know that's how it started. They have since sold the business to Square Up, not Square, Square Up, which is the company behind the website templates that you can get. There have been a few changes since then, but by and large, it is still intact, the program I started off with, and I am still happy with it. So I use Acuity scheduling for everything because I can create inside it different kinds of calendars for different kinds of appointments or different aspects of my business. So I have a calendar for my counseling side. I have a calendar for my coaching side. I have a calendar that is just for the podcast. You can set up different types of appointments. So I have one kind of appointment that is for my deep dive consult, the first visit that my counseling folks have. I have a certain kind of appointment that is for my podcast guests who I am interviewing. All of those different kinds of appointments have their own parameters. We literally have different types of appointments set up inside Acuity that meets every type of need I have. And I can make it where people can set up more than one at a time if I want. I can make it where they are required to pay for it at the time of scheduling, or I can make it where it's completely free and they pay later. I also can have an option in the middle, which is what I do for some things where people have to pay a deposit. It's really, really, really flexible. Now, in the beginning, when I first started using Acuity, I did it all myself. I learned how to use it. I read all the help menus. I messed around with it. I made mistakes. I learned. I wrote up instructions for my clients so that they would know what to do. Today, my right-hand person, Queenie Verhoeven, who many of you know, Queenie handles that for me today. Today, I just tell Queenie, can you go do this in Acuity? I want it to work like this. And she does it. But it was user-friendly enough that I can handle it myself in the beginning. So I want you to know that. So that's what I use for scheduling. I do not do it manually. I do not do it on paper. And I do not do it on the phone. And what my clients love about this is they can go find the times that I have open and they can find the times that works best for them. And if they want to cancel or reschedule, they can do that too. And they never even have to talk to me. Easy peasy, which is how I like it. The last thing I want to mention that is client facing. And this will not be something most of you want to use, but I'm going to tell you about it anyway. And then I'm going to give you an alternative. I actually use Kajabi, Kajabi, Kajabi. I use Kajabi for my email management, for my CRM, customer relationship management tool. I use it for my online courses. I use it for my coaching groups. I use it for 90% of what I do in terms of anything that has to do with providing resources, running a group, setting up a course, sending out emails, all that kind of stuff. I do all of that inside Kajabi. Now, Kajabi is a very robust tool. It started off primarily as a platform for hosting online courses, which is what drew it to me to begin with, or drew me to it to begin with. However, over the past few years, they are slowly but surely adding more and more to it that you can do. Everything from, they have a coaching segment inside of it. They have a podcasting tool inside of it. They have just recently added something where you can create your own app inside of it. Now, I am not using all of those things. Most of those are things you have to pay extra for, and I don't really need those because I have those in other ways. But it can be as much or as little as you want. Now, if your practice is fairly simple and fairly straightforward, and all you really need is a way to email people every now and then, you don't need Kajabi. You do, however, need an email management tool of some kind. What I would recommend that is more in that line, that's just a real simple, easy to use customer relationship tool, management tool, would be Active Campaign. There are lots of other ones out there. There are some really complex ones that are really expensive. There are some real simple ones that, like, a lot of people start with MailChimp. I started off with Constant Contact. I briefly used Aweber at some point, but to be honest, Active Campaign ended up being the best for lots of reasons. The best in terms of price and value, the best in terms of flexibility, the best in terms of reliability and professionalism. I needed it to work and work well. I needed to be able to send out autoresponders to sort of set up automated email sequences, all that kind of stuff. And Active Campaign was great for that. I used that for many years. I only left it when I switched to Kajabi because I wanted to do other things. But if you really just want to use email and you want a good list management tool, I personally recommend Active Campaign. That said, a lot of my coaching clients love MailChimp. So you might want to look into that. I have never used it, but it seems to be fairly user-friendly as well. So there's that. So those are the things that I use that are client-facing, that interact with my people, that keep my people informed, that enable me to send you an email every week, that help me bring to you the content I want to bring to you. And if you're working with me, it's how I help serve you as well. Now let's talk about what I'm doing behind the scenes. Well, there's lots here, but I'm going to hit sort of the highlights. Some of this I talked about in the past, but the number one thing I use is the Office suite that is in Google Drive, Google Suite. They are constantly changing the names of these things, but I used to use all the things that come with, well, back in the day, when I had a PC, I used Microsoft Office. That became really irritating to me for lots of reasons I won't go into. Somewhere along the way, I made the switch from a PC to Apple, never looked back. I know that people have strong feelings on either side of that. Doesn't matter to me, whatever works for you. I can't stand Microsoft Office. Then I went and I was using the Apple suite of products, so Pages, Numbers, and I still use that when I need to. But honestly, I've begun to use Google much more because it is flexible and works for everybody. So I can use it to interact with my team. I can use it to interact with clients and customers. So I just kind of use Google Drive, most Google Docs, Google Drive, Google Sheets, all of those things for most things. Now, I will say I mostly use this for things that are either in motion, like I am working on it actively, or as sort of my first line of storage. I do not keep things here that are of critical importance. I do something else with that. But I do use this as kind of my active storage place, my active production site, my active, when things are alive and I am tweaking things or saving things or changing things or modifying things. This is where I keep all that kind of stuff. Okay? Now, back in episode 83, a lot of you liked that episode. I went into detail about how I have Google Drive organized. And a lot of you liked that. And I've heard from some of you that you have begun to implement some of the things that I shared with you in that episode. You might want to go back and check that out if this is something that you're interested in pursuing for yourself. I find it really helpful. It's really workable for me. I also can do it on my phone. I can do it on an iPad. I can do it on an airplane. I can do it from wherever I am. So I like that as well. Now, for long-term storage, for file management, for media management, I use Dropbox. Now, one of the things that I ran into several years ago was that when I began to use audio and video more, when I began to do YouTube stuff, when I began to create this podcast, media files take up a lot of space. And somewhere along the way, guys, if you end up creating any kind of a course, if you create homework packets for your clients, whatever, if you do anything that has audio and video, you're going to need storage space pretty quickly. And actually, no matter what tool you use, you're going to find that I feel like it's good to pick one place where you are willing to pay for the extra storage. So I pay for extra storage in Dropbox. I do a little bit in Google, but just enough to keep it functioning. Not a lot. Most of anything I want to keep for the long term, anything that is delicate, that is important, anything that's confidential, anything that is critical, I keep final copies of anything like that in Dropbox. And I use basically the same organization system that I use for Google Drive, which I talked about back in episode 83. So Dropbox, so I work everything out in Drive, and then I save the final versions in Dropbox. And that has worked really well for me. I feel like Google Drive is my desk and Dropbox is my filing cabinet. That's kind of how I think about it. Now, one thing I have just recently added to Dropbox, because all of these tools are constantly adding functionality. It's kind of mind-blowing, really. And it can also be really distracting if you're not careful. But something that Queenie and I began to experiment with was I was using DocuSign to get electronic signatures from my clients on any kind of paperwork that we had to do. Well, Dropbox came up with a signature option. And I asked Queenie, who is a high fact finder, to go dig into that and tell me what the pros and cons were of each. And long story short, we evaluated and tested it all, and we made the decision to switch from DocuSign to Dropbox. It's one less tool, guys. So it's simplification, which I love. So I am now having all paperwork signed through Dropbox, which works. It works because it's secure, it's backed up, and that's where I keep all my most serious stuff anyway. So there you go. And then there is let's talk about project management tools. Most of you will not need this, but if your practice is somewhat complicated, if you're building a group for one thing, if you're managing multiple schedules, if you are creating content for your followers, for your clients, if you're writing blogs, producing videos, creating any kind of a course, even if it's just tips for overworked parents, whatever. If there's anything like that you want to create, you may find that you need a project management tool. Now, for a long time, I used Trello. I love Trello. I'm a list maker, and Trello was really intuitive. For me, it basically uses what's called the Kanban organization style. It's just a series of lists. If you've ever read Getting Things Done, GTD, those kinds of philosophies from doing, and done, that sort of basic sort of flow of a project, it's set up to work that way, and I used that for a long time. However, I gradually have found myself moving away from that. For me, Trello was a great tool. When it came to sharing it with my team, I found it a little bit more cumbersome, and it didn't seem to work as well for everybody else. So what I have eventually kind of landed on is I still kind of keep it in the background for my personal stuff. It's where I keep lots of lists, right? I love lists. I use it literally I have Trello boards for recipes. I have Trello boards for household maintenance. I have Trello boards for travel. Just today, I was setting up our birthday, not today, at the day I'm recording this, not the day you're listening to this. At the day I'm recording this, I was making the plans for our camping trip, and I went into Trello and set up my list for that, right? So I use Trello a lot personally to track lots of things. That's where I keep my swipe files that I've mentioned before. That's where I keep a lot of my templates. However, it is very much becoming almost sort of like a background tool. So kind of like Dropbox is my backup to Drive, Trello is becoming my backup to ClickUp. Now, there are lots of project management tools out there. There's one called Teamwork that we used to use for a conference I used to run. There's one called Monday that a friend of mine used to really like. Asana is one that a lot of you will have heard of. But ClickUp is what we are using now inside Ideal Practice. Full disclosure, this was Queenie's idea, not mine. I had looked at it once before and had decided against it because it is so robust. But my sweet, amazing Queenie, who, like, you know what, I trust her 100% when it comes to systems. She did a lot of research. And again, this is where she feels she was using it with other people that she supports. And the more she talked to me about it, the more I thought, yeah, we should probably do this. ClickUp is not for everybody. There has been a bit of a learning curve. It has taken me a while to get the hang of it. I have watched a lot of YouTube videos. I've also gone in and just messed around with it. But we've been using it for, I want to say maybe about 6 months or so. So it's, in my mind, it's still relatively new. Maybe not quite that long, but something like that. But I will say that the more I learn about it and the more I see what's possible in it, the more I can see why this is worth doing. And what we have done is, first of all, we are learning how to use it, Queenie and I. And then we are gradually bringing in our other team members to it. And we are gradually using it for one thing at a time. So we started off by talking about how to use it for the podcast. It takes a lot to pull this out every week. And there are a lot of steps that go into producing a podcast. So we started off with that. And now we're moving into other areas. And now we're ready to bring in team members. So that's where I've gone with that. I do think it's worth it for you to research, try things a little bit. Different tools will work more intuitively for you. And again, you may not need this at all. And if you don't, that's fine. Don't do it. You can just keep a notebook somewhere, right? But if you're like me and you tend to have a lot of irons in the fire, and I always have lots of things going on, this is making me think about the episode that I did with Taylor Schuler, the professional astrologer. One of the things she talked about there, I did not share this on this episode, y'all, but as she was talking through the different types, the different sun signs, and how that may or may not show up in your work, she talked about Geminis. And I am a Gemini rising. I'm a Cancer sun sign, Gemini rising, Virgo moon for anybody who's interested. But one of the things she said about Geminis is that they always have collections of things because they have lots of curiosity and they like lots of different kinds of things. Yeah, that's me. And so that has definitely applied in my business. That's why I've always had several things going on at one time. Like literally my entire career, I've never had just one thing happening at a time. I don't think it's physically possible for me. So for me, project tools are helpful. Project management tools are helpful. You may not need that. And bless your heart if you don't, I envy you. But anyway, so that's what I use behind the scenes that I find helpful. I find intriguing. Sometimes I find challenging. I also find it kind of entertaining because I like figuring that kind of stuff out. It satisfies my little Virgo moon, right? My little organized side. So that's what I'm using. Now, for those of you who are not into the digital stuff at all, or maybe you use it just fine, but Wendy, I really like pen and paper. There's nothing wrong with the old-fashioned way of doing things. Well, my friend, I gotcha. I'm with you too. And actually, there is some research out there that shows that when we write things by hand, not type, when we write things by hand, pen to paper, pencil to paper, marker to paper, there is a type of connection that makes to our brain where we are more likely to download and integrate what we are writing. So when I was attending high-level coaching, I almost always took notes in hand and had a special journal that I used for that. I did not type. When I'm doing my most important brainstorming, I tend to do it by hand, on paper, or sometimes on a whiteboard or a flip chart. So for the analog lovers out there, I'm still with you. There are two things that I still swear by. The first is a paper calendar. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not using this now because I just don't need it anymore. But for probably 15, 20 years, I have used a printed calendar called Planner Pad. Planner Pad, PAD. We will link it to you. You can get it on Amazon. I love that particular tool more than any other, and I have tried them all. Franklin Covey, Daytimer, all the things, because I love that stuff. Planner Pad, week at a time, was by far the most efficient tool I ever used for keeping up with a weekly planning process. I won't go into it here. Read the details if you go look it up for how it's organized, because it basically starts like an upside down triangle from a wide angle view down to the details of an appointment. And I literally have years and years of these, but because this was my brain for a long, long time. As I have moved more into using Google Suite, as I talked about at the beginning, I'm using Google Calendar and now ClickUp. So I just don't need that anymore. I do keep a simple monthly calendar just to kind of do some of my sort of long-term planning, but I just don't need it. But if you really like having a planner, I strongly encourage you to go check out Planner Pad. And no, I am not an affiliate for them. I just think they're really good. And then my other favorite analog tool, y'all, is the idea of a bullet journal. And a bullet journal can be literally any blank book organized in a particular way. You can Google this. There's actually a bullet journal website where you can kind of learn about the basic process. You can totally make it yours. It can be fancy or simple, creative or minimalist. What I find is I kind of like two different kinds of notebooks. I do keep a full size 8.5 by 11 spiral bound notebook that I don't care what it looks like. I don't care if it's messy, that I scribble all over. When I draw, I mind map, I bullet list, I vent, I brainstorm. I use that for everything. I call those my messy notebooks. And I have a certain one that I have found that I bought where do I find these? Where did I find them? I bought them at one of the drugstore chains. I think it's CVS is where I found them. They're the ones I like to use. I'm reaching to get mine. Hold on. The ones I like to use for this are, hold on, I didn't have this on my list. I'm just deciding to share this with you as we speak. They're made by Blue Sky. The one I like is printed by a company called Blue Sky. It's just a Notes. It's called Notes. It has a yearly calendar in it, resource pages, but it's basically a full-size spiral-bound notebook that comes in black. And what I like about it is that the pages are, they're like notebook paper on one side, lined paper, and they're grid. They're grid on the back. And I like that because sometimes I like to box things out in a certain way. So that's been kind of cool. So I do use those. I haven't planned on telling you that, but I do use that. And then the other thing I use really for my bullet journal is a small notebook of some sort that I carry with me that becomes kind of a brain dump. And that varies from I fill one up, I buy another one. I fill one up, I buy another one. I do like spiral bound best, but that's not what I always use. But they are small. This is something I can carry in my purse. I can stick in my briefcase or my backpack. I can throw it in my car. It's just so I have something to write on if I need to write down a phone number, if I need to capture an idea, if I am inspired in some way and I want to capture that before I forget it. Anything like that. So I do have a small notebook that I carry around with me. I have that bigger one I just talked about that I use for brainstorming. And then all the other things I just told you about. So are you overwhelmed? Are you like, oh my gosh, Wendy, I'm tired? Well, let me just reframe this. Essentially, when I need something, I find a tool that works for that. And I experiment with it over time. I make it work and I don't give up on it. I tweak it until it fits for me. And over the years, as my interests have changed, my style might have evolved in some way, my business has changed, what I need to use has changed. That's fine. Changing tools is not an easy thing, so it's not something I would do lightly. That's why I'm careful about what I start, because I kind of want to stick with it for a while. So I will say that. So again, client-facing, I use Square, Acuity, and Kajabi for payment, for scheduling, and for emails. And then behind the scenes, I use all the Google Suites. I use Suites. I use Dropbox, and I use ClickUp primarily. And then the analog tools that I talked to you about just now. Now, I use other tools for the podcast, but I'm not going to go into that because that's not relevant for most of you. If there's anything else you're wondering about, if there's something I didn't cover and you're like, Wendy, how do you do that? Or what do you do about that? By all means, y'all, hit me up on Facebook and ask the question. Go to my Facebook page. You can find it. You can find me on there and post a question. Ask me and I will come back here and answer it. All right? Or I'll answer it there. Whatever I can do to help. So one thing I want to warn you about before I bring this to a close, just one sort of note of caution. For those of you who are creatives, who are intuitives, artistics, who are more right brain dominant, who can't stand the idea of structure, if all you do is have a white what do I want? Like a sketch pad, a sketchbook that you jot ideas in down. That's better than nothing, right? But you may not want any of this, and that's fine. But those of you I really want to speak to are those of you who are like me, who love organization and who can kind of get a little silly about it sometimes. And where it's entertaining to you to sit and watch organizing videos, right? Yeah, you're my people, my Marie Kondo fans out there. You got it. Well, I'm going to give you one little warning. There's a reason why when I was a kid, my mom would tell me to go clean up my room on Saturday. Saturday was a housework day. We had to clean the house on Saturdays. I hated that. But go clean up your room, Wendy, and don't touch your desk. Do not start with your desk. You can clean up anything else. You can do your desk at the end of the day. That was mean, wasn't it? That was mean. But y'all, pretty much from second grade on, I always had a desk. And I loved organizing my desk. I loved sorting things out, right? I loved all of that kind of stuff. So I mentioned this to you to be careful because all of these can be a rabbit hole that can suck you in and not let you go for a while. Make sure you are focused on what's the problem I need to solve and what's the minimum viable solution for solving that. What's easy to use, what's cost effective, what's something that's tangible, repeatable, adaptable, what's going to work for me and what's for my clients. Give yourself some clarity around that and be careful because you can really, 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 really waste a lot of time and waste a lot of money paying for apps and trying out different tools, and you'll find yourself spread thin and not remembering where anything is. And then you got the same kind of problem. That's not going to help you. So be careful. That's all I want to say. I'm preaching to myself there. All right, everybody, that's what I've got for you today. I would love to know, what are your favorite tools for getting things done? What makes all the difference? What's the magic in your practice that keeps you sane? Find me on Facebook and tell me. I'd love to hear from you. And with that, have a great week, everybody. Enjoy yourself. Don't work too hard. It's summer. And I will see you next time right here on the Ideal Practice Podcast. Bye now. Hey, y'all. If this program has become important to you, if Ideal Practice matters, it would mean so much to me if you'd be willing to take just a minute to do one or two of the following things. First of all, would you follow or subscribe to the show here at Ideal Practice? Following me helps you because you'll never miss an episode, but it helps me as well for all kinds of reasons. To do that, all you have to do is go to the show page for Ideal Practice on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. There, just click on the plus sign that you'll usually find in the top right-hand corner, or click on the word follow that you're going to find somewhere there on that page. Of all the things, this really is the most important thing you can do for the podcast itself. While you're there, it would be extra special if you would be willing to give me a 5-star rating, and even better than that, a review with your own words. Your words matter. And when you write what you feel, what you think, you uplift and encourage others. And I love that. If you want to go a step further than that, take your favorite episode or two, one of the ones that has meant a lot to you, and share it with a friend. Could you do one or two of those things for me? I promise I will love you forever. You guys matter to me, and I value your support more than I can possibly say. Thank you, sweet friend, for anything you can do to help me out and support the show. I'll see you again soon.